We have not seen this sun for over a week. It's been about 9 days of rain. It's gorgeous today. Holy cow. Literally, I haven't looked at the sun for like 9 days like this. Everything is soaked. We're supposed to have one day there without rain, and we dried everything out, came out here and installed the grade board. We were in such a hurry and we were fighting the weather. So let's take a moment and kind of walk around this and talk it through. Originally, we planned to have 2 stacks of this gray center match material all the way around the barn. The center match was an upgrade. It was touted as, insect proof and waterproof, etc. And I'm sure it is that, but it's also got the structural integrity of a wet noodle. It is terrible. It bows, it shrinks, it sags. Trying to build something strong with that center match is just not possible. We have 9-foot spacing on our posts. Maybe that contributes to the problem. Maybe it'd be okay with like 2-foot spacing or something, but oh my gosh, it is absolutely terrible. So rather than putting on a second course of center match, we went out and got some pressure treated 2x6. The thought was, let's use that as the second course. So we did. We started off installing it on top of the center match, just thinking that the center match would be straight. We spent so much time trying to make sure that the center match was all at the right height. We did a good job, actually. There's a couple spots that are, I think one's like 3/16 high and the rest are plus or minus an eighth. They're pretty good, but it doesn't account for the sagging. And because I bought 8-foot 2x6 here, they don't all meet at the posts, and we were installing it in such a way that they were following the ebb and flow of the center match board and not actually level. It wasn't until we got to this point where we said, you know what, maybe we need to get out the level and start doing it like that. So what we ended up doing was we'd mark down from our first skirt line, and then we would mark that location on the post. We'd tack the grade board onto the post in the right spot, get out the level it, and then finish installing it. No surprise, that gave us much better results. It's not perfect. There's, areas where things don't quite meet the way we'd want them to. There are still some slight gaps here and there. We're going to try to address some of those today. We're also going to start working on installing the first girt. Let me explain. So there's a girt that has to start somewhere down here. Problem is, you can't toenail it through a metal bracket. Basically what we're doing is we're putting a 2x4 on edge here and then putting the girt on top. It'll come up against this and that, and we're not in love with the way this turned out. I think it's kind of a product of the decisions that we made earlier, but it is what it is. It will be effective. We used polyurethane caulk between the sill plate and the grade board. You can see it kind of squeezed in all over there. And then if there were this gap here that gathers water annoyingly, oh my gosh, we filled that with expanding polyurethane foam to at least remove that space so it won't be able to hold the water that it did before. Eventually, once we get the sheathing on, we're going to be waterproofing from the sheathing over the wood grade board and down onto the plastic grade board. There should be no water penetration at that point. Today we're working on purlins. Yesterday we finished up marking all the center purlins. They're 20 foot long. Got 8-inch power legs that'll go through these and then bite into the trusses. So we preloaded those guys. Now we're up there measuring the distance between the trusses. It's a little off theoretical by about 1/8 or 1/4 inch depending. We also went to hardware last night and picked up a lot more lumber, and wow, the price of lumber has gone up. Oh, it's terrible, but we needed it. So we got a bunch of 12 foot 2x6s. These are the purlins that'll go on the left and right side of the long 20s and will overhang a couple feet up the end. We're installing these from inside the barn on scaffolding. So we started on the 3 lower ones. There's actually another one here. If we install this first purlin, then we won't have enough room to really lag in the jacks. So we're leaving that off for now, but we got the next 3 in and they went in pretty smoothly. Of all of them, I only had to redrive a 1 lag up there. It wasn't as hard to redrive up there as I thought. Granted, these are the lower ones, and as we go up the roof line, we have 3 more to go here, it'll get harder and harder. I mean, we're standing on a 6-foot ladder on top of scaffolding. It's, you know, a little scary, especially in the center where there's not a lot of truss bracing. Ah, our doors are here. Our doors are here. Gotta get them. These are really nicely packaged. They're commercial doors. The cool thing about them is, you know, steel frame, steel door, ball bearing, stainless hinges. I mean, the works. Really beautiful doors. We're excited to install them. It's gonna be a little while. Hopefully it won't sit out here too long. You know, sometimes we have materials sitting here just way too long. We're getting better at organizing and planning and ordering just in time, but you know, like even these guys have been out here longer than I'd care to admit. Anyway, back to the purlins. Twelve of the 14 20-footers are installed. Next up, Robert's going to mark off the remaining 28 purlins. It's a lot of purlins and a lot of marking, but he's gonna get through that. We have all but 1 purlin installed on the north side of the main building. The last one is just up here, and as mentioned previously, we have to get the edge purlin installed first and the overhang jacks mounted before we put this last purlin in place. On this side of the building, we're pretty much done with the exception of the last corner here. So we'll install 6 more, should go pretty fast. And with those installed, we'll be ready to move on to the edge purlins and overhang jacks. These guys are all cut already. We needed to trim them a little bit to get them to fit over the top of the trusses. With those guys installed, we'll cut all of our jacks, lag those into place. We're up top and we're starting to install our edge purlins. The first one's installed. It's not squared up or shimmed or anything like that. We basically just got it installed at the right level and sunk a couple power legs into it to hold it. For this sort of stuff, we try to use a jig whenever possible. So we created this guy, which is really just a 2x6 cut on a 412 pitch with a 2x4 on top to mimic the furring strips that we're gonna use. And then we slid it down to that spot and we lift this guy up until it just touches or just barely touches the 2x4 on the top. Brody, we're sorry. I know. We're up top trying to straighten up the edge purlin here, and the approach we're using is just a little bit of blocking from the girt here to the purlin itself. Just using deck screws for it. It's nothing fancy. Simply with a little blocking to prevent warping, we have a really nice straight line here. What do you think, Robert? We're starting the process of the overhang jacks. You can see we installed one up there. It's a approximately 2 foot long 2x6 cut with a 412 rafter pitch on both sides. So we created a jig that we can set on the marks that we put here. And when lined up, it projects approximately where we need to install our overhang jack. So this one's installed. It's basically just held on with 2 4-inch lags. It seems to be pretty rugged for this early stage. Once we put the furring strips on top, the actual furring strips, nail them all in and then sheathe, I think the overhang will be pretty rugged. We're gonna work on the rest of them. I think this is gonna be pretty easy to knock out. All the standard overhang jacks are installed on both north and south sides of the barn. Today we're trying to advance the roof. First step is to install the purlins at the end there, between the edge purlin and what we're calling the number 2 purlin. We have to install that on both sides. They're just over here, and they should install pretty quickly. After that, we will probably attack what we're calling the furring strips, which are flat 2x4s that run from the ridge down to the fascia. Next, we're gonna cut all the furring strips that go from the ridge line all the way down to the eave, 24 on center. So those are flat 2x4s. For the eave detail, we're gonna be cutting them all like that, just using a circular saw and chopping it off at approximately 14 foot 6 inches. We've got 4 of them installed and a lot more to go. We've laid them out all along the walls on both sides, and there's a lot. Actually, we don't even have those 4 installed. We've only nailed them into the first 3 purlins, so we still have to nail them into the 4 purlins above those.